Kroth differs from Aru in that Kroth is sort of the hammer and anvil approach, where a lot of their siege troops are a little bit more mobile, where Aru is the complete opposite. They have this polarity between having a bunch of hyper-aggressive, fragile troops combined with some very, very positional tools that like to entrench into an area.
So Mala and Zol are these two really iconic characters that really hammer home sort of the twin spirits of what it is to be Aru. Mala can sacrifice her own units to radically increase healing in a given area, and her Bloodwell structure can actually harvest the life force of units that die nearby, giving her Pyre and sort of building up to her transcendent ult ability, which literally makes the sky bring blood. So Zol, on the other hand, embodies the more predatory hunter elements of Aru. She swaps out the masked hunter for this sort of super stalker, this bone stalker, that brings stealth combat and ambushing into the early game in a really compelling way. All of her units can see into the fog of war a bit. They have that sort of tremor sense, or that sort of sixth hunter's sense that really lets a skilled Zol player be one step ahead of the opponent at any given time.
Definitely the most exciting thing about Aru will be their contrasting playstyle, where they're going to have a lot of fragile troops that are very mobile, and you're able to run around the map pretty effectively with more of a hit and run and ambush style, skulking around the map, finding targets of opportunity, and they're able to follow it with Aru's ability to just completely lock down and entrench into an area with their roots.
So what's really cool about Rootway is that it's a very visual representation of the Arus and their goddesses' influence encroaching on the battlefield. And there's some really cool visual effects that we're working on to really deliver that fantasy.
The Aru has lower mana regeneration than most factions do when they're off Rootway. And then they want to make sure they're on Rootway to make sure they have extra mana regeneration. So they're really tied to making sure they want to come back and stay on their Rootway whenever they want to have their maximum mana regeneration for their casters, which kind of ties into them being able to cast from life if they ever find themselves in a situation without mana. As another part of their gameplay, they have an overshield, which regenerates very, very quickly, but only once they haven't been fighting for a little bit. So when their Aru troops are on the Rootway, they regenerate their shields a lot faster.
I think one of the really cool sort of workhorse units we have in Immortal is the Underspine, which really it's similar to the Magi in the sense that it kind of turns on the rest of your early compositions, but it scales really well into the late game. And what's cool about it is it's a deploy-only unit, so it can move around, and then when you deploy it, becomes hidden and starts attacking things. Basically, it's this nasty hermit crab bobbit worm creature that will just really mangle anything that gets too close to it while providing rootway for your forces.
Where the Underspine represents the positional nature of the Root Witches, the Aru, the Bloodbound is the complete opposite. This is the assassin, or more mobile force in the Aru, where they are very fragile, but they are glass cannons and have extreme damage. And they are also able to teleport someone. And whenever you've teleported somewhere, if there's a unit that you've teleported right on top of, they basically get nuked and assassinated for a crazy amount of damage.
I think people are going to love how Aru soldiers and warriors and hunters look and kind of stand out as this sort of living predatory foliage or sort of treant people. We have some really iconic characters, shapes, and sort of textures and palettes that we're kind of bringing to the fore in a way that I don't think any other strategy game has done. So we're definitely treading on unique ground here.